Fairness is a lie. It's a weapon created to keep you obedient, predictable, and weak. The moment you decide to play by fair rules, you've already surrendered the battlefield to someone willing to be ruthless. And history is not written by the fair. It's written by the winners. Look around you. Every day, you're told to be nice, be patient, play fair. Teachers preach it. Parents demand it. Corporate HR manuals are filled with it. But what's the truth? The truth is that the world doesn't reward fairness, it rewards effectiveness. Niccolò Machiavelli, in The Prince, 1513, said it bluntly. It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose. That sentence alone could destroy decades of social conditioning if you let it sink in. I learned this the hard way. In my first corporate job, I worked harder than anyone else. Stayed late, volunteered for projects, played by the book. I believed fairness meant recognition. But when the promotion came, it didn't land on my desk. It went to someone who didn't play fair. He cut alliances behind closed doors, took credit with charm, and positioned himself as indispensable. At first, I thought it was injustice. Later, I realized it was war, and I was the naive soldier walking onto the battlefield without armor. History echoes this same lesson. Julius Caesar didn't play fair when he crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC, violating Rome's sacred law. By fairness, he should have been executed as a traitor. By ruthlessness, he became the master of Rome. Napoleon didn't rise by politely waiting in line behind senior generals. He seized moments others feared to grasp. Churchill wasn't fair when he sacrificed entire garrisons in World War II to protect England's long-term survival. Fairness would have cost them the war. So, here's the uncomfortable truth. Life is a chessboard, not a playground. Every handshake, every deal, every relationship pieces are moving. Positions are shifting. The rules you were taught are not the rules the powerful actually play by. The powerful write their own rules. And if you keep waiting for fairness, you'll keep getting outplayed by those who already embraced ruthlessness. While others hesitate, you must learn to act. While others cling to fairness, you must master strategy. While others wait for recognition, you must take it. This isn't about cruelty. This is about clarity. It's about seeing the battlefield as it is, not as you wish it to be. So ask yourself, how many years will you waste playing a game designed to keep you small? How many opportunities will slip through your fingers while you cling to fairness like a shield that never protected anyone? Today, I'll reveal Machiavelli's darkest power lessons. Not the watered-down motivational fluff you've been fed, but the raw, dangerous truths that emperors, generals, and conquerors have lived by. These are strategies most people will never touch because they're too afraid of what it means to wield real power. But if you're still here, you're not most people. Are you ready to stop being prey and start becoming predator? Or will you keep living as a casualty of your own innocence? Because this right now is your Rubicon. Let me confess something most people would never admit publicly. I used to believe the world was inherently just, that if I worked hard, stayed loyal, and followed the rules, life would reward me. That illusion cost me years. I remember sitting in a dimly lit office one winter evening. The air was stale with printer ink and burnt coffee. I had just finished polishing a financial model that no one else on the team wanted to touch. I stayed late for weeks, sacrificing sleep, health, and even relationships, because I believed going the extra mile was the currency of advancement. When the day of reckoning arrived, the partners gathered us to announce the new manager. My pulse raced, palms sweaty, rehearsing the thank you speech in my head. Then came the name. It wasn't mine. It was the guy who knew how to charm, how to flatter, how to make himself seen. He never put in the hours I did. He never stayed late. But he knew something I didn't. Fairness is irrelevant when power is at stake. That night, sitting alone under the humming fluorescent lights, I realized my strategy was broken. I was the dutiful soldier fighting by rules that no one else honored. I felt betrayed, angry at them, but more furious at myself. Because deep down, I saw the truth. I had chosen weakness disguised as virtue. And this wasn't the first time. Back in school, I lost elections I should have won because I thought merit spoke louder than alliances. In sports, I sat on the bench because I trusted coaches would reward effort instead of politics. Over and over, the same pattern. I clung to fairness, and fairness abandoned me. Now, look at history. Do you think Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire by playing fair? He attacked with speed, deception, and ruthless precision. Do you think Stalin held power by following moral codes? He understood the battlefield of perception, fear, and loyalty better than his rivals. Fairness is never the deciding factor in war or politics. It's ruthlessness cloaked in strategy. The day I accepted this, everything shifted. I began to study the rules the powerful actually play by. How to build alliances not out of loyalty, but out of mutual advantage. How to speak less and observe more. How to use silence as a weapon. How to project competence even before results arrived. Slowly, my world transformed. I stopped waiting to be noticed. I engineered situations where being ignored was impossible. I stopped clinging to fairness. I embraced leverage. I stopped seeing morality as the map and started using strategy as the compass. But here's the most painful question you need to face. How many times in your life have you been overlooked, underestimated, or betrayed because you were too afraid to be ruthless? How many victories slipped from your hands because you trusted the fairness of others? This is why vulnerability matters here. Because if you think I'm speaking from a pedestal, you're wrong. I bled on this battlefield. I lost years to naivete, and I know the exact taste of regret when you realize you could have won, but you chose to play fair instead. So I ask you directly, are you willing to confront the ways fairness has crippled you? Or will you stay comfortable, hiding behind the illusion of virtue while others seize the power you deserve? Here's the brutal truth. Morality and fairness are luxuries of the powerless. The powerful have always lived by a different code. And Machiavelli, writing in 1513, didn't invent this code, he simply revealed it. In The Prince, he stripped away the illusions. He declared that rulers must be willing to act against mercy, against faith, against humanity, if survival demanded it. He showed that appearances of virtue matter more than virtue itself, that fear is stronger than love, and that cruelty, if used strategically, can be more humane than weakness that leads to chaos. Let's trace the framework. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he wasn't just defying law, he was declaring that law itself bends to those bold enough to seize it. Fairness would have sent him into retirement. Ruthlessness gave him Rome. When Napoleon crowned himself emperor in 1804, snatching the crown from the Pope's hands, he wasn't showing disrespect. He was sending a message. Legitimacy doesn't come from tradition, it comes from audacity. And when Churchill ordered the bombing of the French fleet at Mers el-Kebir in 1940, killing over 1,000 former allies, he wasn't being fair. He was ensuring England's survival against Hitler. What do all these examples share? 3 principles. 1. Perception trumps reality. Caesar became Rome's savior by appearing decisive, even when he was breaking every law. 2. Fear outlasts love. Napoleon demanded loyalty, not through kindness, but through dominance and relentless ambition. 3. Cruelty can be compassion. Churchill sacrificed 1,000 to save millions, a move history now validates. Now, think about your own life. You've been told to be fair, be kind, be patient. But those who rise, the politicians, the CEOs, the generals, they practice Machiavelli's framework. They cultivate the appearance of virtue while quietly maneuvering with ruthless intent. Machiavelli himself was exiled, betrayed by the fairness he once served. But out of exile, he forged The Prince, not as a moral guidebook, but as a war manual for power. He saw what most never do. Humans are selfish, loyalty is temporary, and survival belongs to those who accept reality as it is, not as they wish it to be. And here's the paradox most never grasp. Ruthlessness doesn't mean chaos. It means clarity. It means you no longer waste energy on illusions. You no longer cry when fairness betrays you. Instead, you study leverage, perception, timing. You learn to strike when others hesitate. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "In war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak." That's ruthlessness, not fairness, not morality, strategy. So ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized appearance over truth? When was the last time you embraced fear over love, cruelty over weakness, strategy over fairness? If the answer is never, then you're still playing checkers while the powerful play chess. Here's the paradox. Most people believe fairness produces stability, but the evidence shows the opposite. When leaders cling to fairness, they crumble. When individuals wait for merit alone to be recognized, they rot in obscurity. History, psychology, and modern business all confirm the same lesson. Ruthlessness, when executed strategically, creates survival, growth, and dominance. Let's start with history. Take the Roman Republic. Their obsession with fairness, with checks and balances, became their weakness. Endless debates, shared power, and compromise slowed them down. Then Caesar came, ruthless, decisive, willing to cut through politics with the sword. Rome transformed from a bickering republic into an empire that ruled for centuries. Fairness built fragility. Ruthlessness built legacy. Now look at the corporate battlefield. In 1997, Apple was dying. Fair leaders might have focused on keeping peace, pleasing every board member, respecting fair consensus. Steve Jobs didn't. He slashed product lines, humiliated executives, and forced focus with brutal clarity. Was it fair? No. Did it work? Apple rose from near bankruptcy to the most valuable company on earth. And psychology? Research on negotiation shows that those who anchor aggressively, those who stake bold, unfair positions, win more value. Studies in behavioral economics prove that humans respect confidence and power more than fairness. People don't follow the fairest leader. They follow the one who radiates certainty. Let me tie this back to my life. After years of losing opportunities to fair players, I decided to experiment with ruthlessness. In one critical meeting, I stopped waiting to be called on. I cut in, laid out a bold vision, and claimed ownership of a project others were circling around. Was it polite? No. Did it ruffle feathers? Absolutely. But it positioned me as indispensable. That single act multiplied my influence tenfold. Machiavelli warned, "He who is the cause of another becoming powerful is ruined himself." Evidence backs this up. Waiting for fairness means giving away power. Every time you let someone else take the initiative, you empower your rival. Every time you bite your tongue to play fair, you weaken your own position. 3 hard truths, backed by evidence. 1. Fairness rewards hesitation. Data shows decisive leaders rise faster, even if they're polarizing. 2. Ruthlessness commands respect. History shows those who dare to be feared outlast those who beg to be loved. 3. Fairness collapses under pressure. Organizations obsessed with equality often fail in crises, while those with ruthless clarity survive. So, let me challenge you. How many times have you lost, not because you weren't capable, but because you weren't ruthless enough to claim what was yours? How many times have you trusted fairness to carry you, only to be left behind? The evidence is clear. Fairness is weakness, disguised as virtue. Ruthlessness, when guided by strategy, is strength disguised as inevitability. If the first layer of evidence showed that ruthlessness works, the second layer shows you how it works step by step, principle by principle. Ruthlessness isn't chaos. It's a structured operating system. and those who master it bend the game in their favor again and again. Here's the first principle. Control perception, not reality. Machiavelli argued that rulers must focus less on being virtuous and more on appearing virtuous. Think of Napoleon. He was ruthless in war, sacrificing tens of thousands in Russia, but to the French people, he carefully crafted the image of a heroic liberator. Today, CEOs do the same. Elon Musk, for example, makes brutal decisions, mass layoffs, market-shaking tweets, crushing competitors. The reality? Ruthless. The perception? Visionary genius changing the world. Reality bends to those who master appearances. Second principle. Divide to rule. Caesar understood this. He didn't unite the Senate, he fractured it, keeping rivals too busy fighting one another to unite against him. In modern workplaces, the same pattern emerges. Ruthless leaders don't try to make everyone friends. They manage by balancing loyalties, by ensuring no alliance is strong enough to threaten them. Fairness says, treat everyone equally. Ruthlessness says, treat everyone strategically. Third principle, calculated cruelty. Machiavelli insisted that cruelty, if necessary, should be swift, decisive, and purposeful. Alexander the Great did this when he razed Thebes in 335 BC. He slaughtered thousands as a warning, then ruled other Greek cities with relative leniency. One act of calculated ruthlessness prevented endless rebellions. In your own life, calculated cruelty may mean cutting off a toxic partner, firing someone undermining your mission, or walking away from a deal that weakens you. Fairness hesitates. Ruthlessness executes. I've tested these principles personally. When I stopped trying to please everyone at work and instead managed relationships strategically, supporting some, sidelining others, I stopped being ignored. When I projected absolute certainty about decisions, even before I had all the data, people deferred to my lead. And when I made one hard, unpopular call to end a failing project, I sent a signal. I wasn't afraid to wield the blade when necessary. The result? Respect, influence, and authority I had never experienced while playing fair. But here's where most people resist. They say, if I do this, won't people hate me? Won't I lose friends? Won't I become the villain? That's the fear talking. And it's valid, but it's also weak. Machiavelli holding you back, and act ruthlessly to cut it out. So let me ask you, are you willing to become the strategist instead of the servant? Are you ready to put on the mask, to wield calculated cruelty, to rule instead of waiting for recognition? Or will you keep hiding behind fairness while others carve out empires? Here's the hardest truth of all. The moment you stop playing fair and start embracing ruthlessness, the world will fight you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're breaking the script. Society survives by keeping people obedient, predictable, tame. The moment you step outside that cage, the alarms go off. Let me tell you about the first time I consciously chose ruthlessness. I cut off a senior colleague who had been undermining me for months. Instead of confronting him fairly or waiting for HR to intervene, I quietly built alliances.